Good afternoon, all of you. I think we'll go on to the session directly. I'm very happy to see all four stakeholders of healthcare system sitting here. The first one, the data scientist, who is creating softwares and many things for us. The second category of people, second stakeholders, it's the healthcare administrators. I see many people here. The third stakeholder are the doctors or whoever is using the product. And the fourth one are the consumers, the patients. Whatever we do in terms of developing digital transformation or artificial intelligence, we have to always think about the fourth stakeholder who is going to directly benefit the patient. If we create any software or whatever advancement happens in the technology, if it is not going to benefit the patients directly, it's going to be a big failure. The third stakeholder is also really important. Whatever the data scientists are creating, the third stakeholder, these are the healthcare providers, doctors, they should get convinced. They should be able to adapt it very easily, then only they can deliver the service to the patients. I think the ecosystem works to benefit the fourth, the major consumers. And all of us are patients anyway. I think we all get some treatment or any of our family members get treated. If you don't directly benefit from this digital transformation, I think the whole system will fail. I think we have to just focus on those things. This session will have three different parts. The first one is, I'm going to ask Mr. Bharani, whom I know for the last 4 years. We have studied at Indian School of Business 4 years back. We did the MBA program. He runs two companies. One deals with artificial intelligence. They have done many projects, and he is into educational technology. Actually, this company offers many courses, and he has trained more than 4,000 tech professionals, and he is doing many projects across the world. I have the pleasure of inviting Mr. Bharani here. I have requested him to talk basics about artificial intelligence, mainly to explain the terminologies. What is AI? What is machine learning? What is generative AI? Those kind of basic concepts. I know there are a lot of people sitting here who are all experts in AI. His presentation and my presentation will focus on the basics of AI, and then we'll move on to the panel discussion later. Please come on stage, Bharani.
Thank you, Ilan. Thank you, CII, and thank you, everyone, for having me here. There is a presentation. Okay, even before we get into that, can I ask you all this question on what is the difference between AI and machine learning? A lot of us speak about artificial intelligence, machine learning, data science, and whatnot, right? But what shall I say is the difference between AI and machine learning? Can someone answer this, please? No one? Probably that's, yeah, please go. AI is a subset of machine learning, okay.
I would personally say that, artificial intelligence is something like robotics and an assistant which does things automatically as trained to do. Machine learning is more like a coordination between the machine and the human being, where it is a shade more advanced than artificial intelligence, where machines and humans communicate. And artificial intelligence is only as it's told what it's told to do. But machine learning is more involving. That's what I would say the difference is.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Okay, thank you. So, do you want to answer?
Machine learning is something like, suppose if there are 10,000 images of a particular entity, the machine would start recognizing what the image is. It will start making it, identifying it, or making sense out of it. Artificial intelligence is the outcome of machine learning. So it develops the models based on the learnings, whatever is being acquired through the machine learning process.
Okay.
That's my take.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, something of that sort.
Did you also have similar kind of a thought? All right, thank you. Okay, can we move on? I'll explain about the differences between AI, machine learning, and other stuff in a bit. Even before we proceed further, I wish to talk about the 4 stages of analytics that exist, right? We have done a project for Rela Hospital in the space of pharmacy forecasting. Okay, and it contained 4 stages. The first stage was descriptive analytics. And as part of descriptive analytics, the moment we get the data from pharmacy, you look at how many drugs are getting sold from each and every specialization, for example, right? Just the basic analytics, just to understand the pulse of the data. Then we proceed further with diagnostic analytics, where you ask questions such as, why is it that a specific drug is getting sold to a very great extent? For example, probably because of COVID, there was excessive sale of a specific drug. Yeah. And then we move on to predictive analytics. As part of predictive analytics, you forecast how many drugs would be needed for the next 3 months, or for the next 5 months, or for the next 6 months across different specialties. Right? That's called as predictive analytics. The one thing which people, most often than not miss out is prescriptive analytics. What is prescriptive analytics? As opposed to we just forecasting and telling that these many drugs would be needed in these specializations, as opposed to just saying that, if we can give an additional lever for the management to play around with, saying that while based on your patterns of selling drugs in the past 5 years, you'll be selling these many drugs in future, as opposed to just saying that, if I can also give them some levers to play around with. For example, if I increase the specialties in my hospital, if I decrease the specialties in my hospital, if I increase the number of drugs, if I increase the number of beds, if I increase the number of doctors, so on and so forth, what will be the impact on the number of drugs which will be needed? And what will be the optimal level of drugs which would be needed? When you talk and analyze these things, that's called as prescriptive analytics. So we have 4 stages basically, right? Descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, and prescriptive analytics. Now, our discussion. What is artificial intelligence? I'll explain from, driving a car standpoint, right? If you drive a car, what are the various things that you do? You control the steering, you change the gears, you apply brakes, you do everything manually, right? If I can put that manual intelligence into a system and automate it, that would be called as artificial intelligence. Self-driving cars, autonomous vehicles are examples of artificial intelligence. Now, surgeries are done manually, right? Manually, with human intelligence, surgeries are performed. If I can automate that artificially, right? If I can artificially simulate the intelligence of human, then it's called as artificial intelligence. And to build AI systems, you need data science. Data science talks about data. It talks about the responsibility aspects, which Dr. Ilan was talking about. It talks about ethical aspects. And all these various components put together is this field called data science. It's not just about just getting whatever data comes our way, right? Then, data mining. Like coal mining, what do you do in coal mining? You dig coal, and then if you're lucky, you get some precious metals. Data mining is all about digging data. Okay, you keep digging data, and like coal mining, you want to get some precious metal. In that way, as part of data mining, you want some precious data insight to come out. Right? And then you have different variants of data mining, like supervised, unsupervised, so on and so forth. And then comes machine learning. Machine learning is not about, initially in 2005, I believe, back then it was called a statistical programmer role, which I was playing in 2005. When I heard this term called machine learning, I was thinking that machines learn something. It's not about machine learning something, right? Machine learning is all about learning the patterns in the data. For example, this age group, this gender, these many times this person has visited the hospital, hence, this patient might have these diseases. That pattern is learned. Learning those patterns is called as machine learning. And then within machine learning, you have a specialization called as deep learning. A lot of our speakers were talking about structured data, unstructured data, right? Unstructured data means what? Images, video, audio, text, etc. To analyze these kind of data, which is unstructured in format, you need a specialized machine learning algorithm. Okay, and that is called as deep learning. The chat GPT that we use is built based on deep learning. Right? Deep learning is all about neural networks. Neural networks will help you analyze videos, images, audio files, textual data, and any data which has too much of complexity built into that. And generative AI, right? This is what we all have been talking about. Generative AI can help you generate videos. Automatically videos are generated. So movies, moving forward, would be based on generative AI, the scenes that we see and all that. As we speak, a lot of OTT companies are doing this. What are they doing? They're looking at all these super hit movies. They're looking at what scenes garnered a lot of attention. And then using all those clips or movie bits, which is attracting a lot of attention, they're generating new videos. So it's no longer, director sitting there and then directing the movies. It will be generative AI. And then images are getting generated. So here I have a question for you all. What do I do with medical images which I generate? First of all, to build AI applications, we need huge amount of data, huge. And in the next slide, I'll talk about something called as embryo classification model, where we need images. We need huge amount of images. But getting that data is extremely difficult. Probably you might get 1,000, 2,000, by tying up with various research organizations, hospitals, etc. So how do you think generative AI is going to help from that standpoint? Can someone answer this, please? How do you think generative AI, which would generate images, help us in building AI application? It's chick and egg kind of a problem, right? Yes, please. Absolutely. Absolutely. You're right in that. So if you have limited number of images and if you want to build an AI application, that's not possible. So what do you do then? You actually take those limited set of images, build a model, generative AI model, which will then in turn generate new images for you. And then you use combination of all these images to build your AI application, which is going to give good results. Right? That's how you make use of AI to build AI. And then we can also generate audio, and then we can also generate text. Here, I would like to show you a couple of examples. This example I would show, and then I would request you all to tell me whether it's generative AI related application or regular AI related application. Can you just scroll it? Okay, fine, that's okay. In the interest of time, you can move to the next slide. Okay. If you are able to play that, can you just scroll it? Yes. Yeah, somewhere. Yeah. So this is embryo image, right? IVF. Yeah. So this is embryo image, friends, and we built an application which is going to classify an image as whether it is viable or further, not viable.
You'll also see the probability values associated with whether this is good or bad.
Okay, so what kind of application is this? Is this a generative AI application or regular AI application? What do you guys think? Generative AI. Anyone else?
And if
is it generating something? No, it's taking an image and it is classifying an image as whether it is viable or not viable, right? So this is a typical AI application. Now, I'll give you an example of generative AI. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so we built an application called Stethub Bot. Right? What Stethub Bot does is, it will help you generate discharge summary automatically. Right? It will help you with medical conditions. There are a lot of prompts which are given on the left side if you see. Okay, to make your life easy. Now, this generative AI bot is built based on large language model, not your GPT-4, which is used to run your chat GPT. We cannot use chat GPT for medical purpose because it's not trained on medical literature. So we have trained this Stethub bot on multiple LLMs, large language models, which are trained on medical literature like BioBert, BioGPT, so on and so forth. And then we made it very, very efficient, right? As opposed to writing the entire discharge summary, a physician can just click on that prompt. Whatever you see on the left side are called as prompts. Just click on that, it will come and sit here. You click on enter, and then it will automatically generate the data for you. This is an application of generative AI. And the founder of this company is Dr. Ilan. And that's an amazing bot, and a lot of additional prompts are coming up, so please watch out for this portion. Yep. So that is all I had for this particular session. Thank you so much.
Okay, in this talk, I'll brief about what could this AI do in medicine or healthcare sector. This is a basic level of talk, not at the high end. I'm not going to touch upon any area of what a data scientist will do. I'm going to keep it simple, just to give some basic understanding how the AI can have an impact in healthcare. So there are a lot of questions people might ask. We know everything in healthcare. Doctors might ask, we know everything. Why do I need AI or digital transformation? Or somebody might ask who is working in the peripheral centers or any primary health center. Of course, corporate hospitals have money. They can do anything. But we are struggling with the basic needs. How can we implement these changes? And healthcare professionals themselves, including doctors, might think, will it replace me? Say, radiologists might think the AI in radiology might replace radiologists. What will happen to my job? These are all the basic concerns from the stakeholders of healthcare community. I'm sure all of you will agree with that. The next question is, do we need AI in healthcare? I just want to share some comparison. This is the road condition of many of the part of the country. Do we still need Chandrayaan Vikram lander? Why should we spend billions of rupees in launching a lander to the moon where we can't even provide good quality roads? How many of you think Chandrayaan is required or not? Raise your hands, please. More than 50%, I would say. How many of you think we just focus on basic needs like getting the roads ready? Don't focus on Chandrayaan. Raise your hands, please. Very less. I'm happy to know that. I feel it's really important to balance both. Otherwise, we'll be stuck at one stage. Many people will go forward beyond than what we are currently. So it's a typical example of how we need to implement AI. This is the picture from our hospital where we provide high quality care. Each patient get individual attention, high tech, everything is high tech. And this is the picture from a primary health center. Interestingly, more than 80% of our country's population falls into this category. My expectation would be if digital transformation or artificial intelligence, if this can help the patients in the peripheral health center and get the equal treatment like what they do in a big corporate hospitals, I think that will be the success story of digital transformation. I don't feel we are not too far away, we are too far away to achieve that goal. This is the numbers from US. 75% of all deaths happens in chronic diseases. And they also noticed that US healthcare system itself wastes more than $750 billion. It's just wastage of resources. They also found that they have a global deficit of 12.9 million skilled healthcare professionals. And the main goal is to provide better patient outcome with a lower cost. This is an interesting story from the US. If this is the story from US, you can recognize where we stand in India. Our numbers will be really bad compared to this. So the question for Indian healthcare system is, there are a lot of issues we need to address. One is accessibility. Patients in the peripheries or underprivileged community, they don't have access to high quality treatment, and there is a lack of skilled workforce, and we are also wasting a lot of resources and manpower, mainly in the paperwork. There is an increasing cost, and we also deal with the newer diseases, newer genetic diseases and all this stuff, and there is an increasing age of population in our country, and if you ask many doctors and nurses, they always feel they're all burnt out. This is the current issue of healthcare system. So whatever we do in digital transformation, we need to focus on more accessibility for patients. That should be our primary goal. And for doctors should be able to provide better clinical diagnosis and management. Even if you take 100, say 100 cardiologists, maybe all of them are not equally talented. Maybe 50% of them may be very good, maybe another 30% are average. We might still have 10 to 20% very, very average. We need to have right skill set. We should have certain standards. And we have to improve the speed of delivery. Even discharge, it takes 6 to 8 hours for a patient to go out of the hospital, even if you say the patient can go out, because there's so much of paperwork. If the speed of delivery can be improved, that's great. Improving administrative workflow, and clinicians, note taking can be done with the generative AI, and AI-enabled robots are required to reduce the cost, and we should be able to provide high-quality care in the remote areas. So I just want to quickly show this picture just to give some idea of how we are progressing. This is called as cosmic calendar. I'm not sure how many of you have seen it before. It's basically 13 billion years of history of the Earth condensed into 1 year. Say January 1st was the date of Big Bang occurred, and if you look at the bottom, that's a December 31, the final day, the humanity started to exist in the Earth only in the last 7 seconds. You can see that there. In the last few seconds only, we are progressing. This is the overall status of the Earth. Interestingly, we are all living in an era where a lot of innovations are happening. Maybe 50 years back, 100 years back, people were not able to fly. Now we are able to fly. We are able to speak to people sitting in the US, or we are able to speak to people who is sitting in Mars or flying in the moon. So those kind of advancement of happening, and we are very lucky to live in a generation we are able to see a lot of changes or a lot of progression in this sector. So if you look at the last 7 seconds, that's a many million years. If you ask scientists, they will say there are 3 most important innovations have happened on the Earth in the humanity to make a big change. Number 1, the fire. People have invented fire many years ago. That has made a big change in the way humans live in this planet. Second one, agriculture. The whole migration happened because of agriculture. You would have noticed that that's the reason people live close towards water bodies like river or other things. So agriculture has made a big impact. The third one is electricity. Electricity includes everything, flying in a plane or using mobile phone, everything. So these are the major changes happened in the last many decades, or many centuries, I would say. So people are expecting that artificial intelligence will be the 4th major change that might transform the humanity, how we are progressing. So we have to be we have to watch this area very carefully, because this is going to impact anyone's life, not only in the people in the healthcare sector, in anyone's life. So I just wanted to show some examples of what happened in other industries, how healthcare can adapt these changes quite quickly. So World Bank reported that in 1960, it was 70 years ago, 65% of the world's workforce was employed in agriculture. But 5 years back, that number has dropped to 28%, which means we have relieved more than 40% of the world population to do some other work. If the same thing happens in the healthcare sector, where unwanted resources are moved out of useful work, I am sure that will make a big change. Again, the story. 1900 in the US, one farmer fed 25 people. If you look at the current status, the same farmer is able to feed more than 150 people, 6 times more. How is it possible? It's all because of technology. The same policy we should be able to adapt in the healthcare system, where Single person should be able to provide more care towards the patient. I have shown the picture of a primary health center. Those people are still struggling. How can we use the highly skilled manpower to benefit the people getting treatment in a primary health center? That's how we should think about transforming the healthcare digitally. And artificial intelligence in healthcare is not a new concept. This paper was published more than 50 years ago in New England Journal of Medicine. And Professor William predicted that by the year 2000, computers would have an entirely new role in medicine, acting as a powerful extension of physician's intellect. It's happening 20 years later. He predicted that this will happen in 2000, but it's happening in this decade. We should feel happy about that. I also wanted to show you a quick video.
Wake up. You're all right. Come on. Wake up. Oh, take it easy. Stay calm. You are all right. Now listen to me. Look at me. You're gonna be fine. I need you to do as I say. Alyssa, is the EMH program still online? It should be. Take it easy. That's it. That's a girl. I swore I'd never use one of these. Computer, activate the EMH program.
Please state the nature of the medical emergency.
20 Borg are about to break through that door. We need time to get out of here. Create a diversion.
This isn't part of my program. I'm a doctor, not a doorstop.
Well, do a dance. Tell a story. I don't care. Just give us a few seconds.
According to Starfleet medical research, Borg implants can cause severe skin irritations. Perhaps you'd like an analgesic cream?
This video was taken 30 years ago, nearly 30 years ago. This was a science fiction. People that time would have thought that it's just a fiction, actually. Now, it's going to happen now. And it's happening in our industry in front of our eyes. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, VR, virtual reality. It's a combination of everything they have predicted a science fiction 30 years ago. We are going to witness very soon. I just wanted to communicate this message. And this is a bot which was released long back. It's more than 60 years old. Again, this is a conversational chatbot in medicine. People thought about this 60 years ago. Now, as Bharani said, ChatGPT is well advanced to answer many of his questions. So, for creating artificial intelligence or machine learning models or algorithms, we need data. We notice that patients provide so much of data from start to end in their journey while getting a treatment. You can see that in the pharmacy, insurance claims, electronic medical records, social media. There are so many areas patients are providing so much of data. Our primary aim should be how we capture the data, how we analyze it, how we can create better models to improve the same patient's care in the future. There's so much of research happening abroad in US and many other countries. India is a little bit lacking in terms of capturing data. I think our main focus should be, we should create AI models which uses Indian data, which will directly benefit Indian patients. Because the system is different, medical conditions are different in US, we can't just adapt, demographics are different. So we need to create our own data. So this is the ChatGPT. This is a very complex medical situation. I'm not going to go through in detail. 2 years back, if a doctor gets similar patient, they wouldn't know what to do. Maybe 1 or 2% of the doctors in the country might be able to make a diagnosis. But if you type the same question in ChatGPT today or any other models, this will give an accurate answer. I'm not saying that all the answers are accurate, but it will put doctors into a track where they can think in the right direction. So we should be able to leverage these kind of advanced algorithms for day-to-day practice. We cannot just ignore it in the future. This will be also legalized, I am sure, because AI is in a very early nascent stage. It's going to progress very fast in the future. So we are going to have a panel discussion to address all these topics. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. AI is useful in many areas, starting with diagnostics, medical imaging, drug development, hospital information system, medical research, wearables, built-in virtual assistants, nutrition, mental health, robotic surgery. There are so many areas AI is going to play a major role. We'll have a discussion in the panel after this. This is a quick, good example where you have a computer next to the doctor and patients. You don't need to do anything. The computer will observe of what they speak. Finally, the computer will give a summary of the overall conversation. Actually, it can even give a diagnosis for the doctors to think of what are the differential diagnoses. It's all not for the future. It's all happening in the US right now. There are so many softwares already developed. And this is the AI simulation software which can be used in the cath lab, where AI can tell you, the cardiologist, interventional cardiologist, where the stenosis is. So instead of wasting too much of time to find out the problem, cardiologists can focus on how they can clear the system. And VR models, it's also applicable, it's also in use in some places, or it's under research, where many areas in healthcare system or medicine, AI, ML plus VR system can be potentially used with success. This video I have taken few days back from our institute from a donor surgery, liver donor surgery, how a robotic system is quite useful. You can see a doctor is sitting in some other location at the corner of the theater. The machine does the surgery. So we are living in 2020. This is the advancement we are having right now, where we don't need a surgeon standing next to the patient. If the same principle can be applied, if the same surgeon can operate a patient who is in Tirunelveli or Thoothukudi without going there, I think that's an advancement we are all looking into. There will be a stage where we don't need surgeon at all. There are many surgeries can be done automatically by the robots. We haven't reached that stage yet, but I feel there is a strong possibility we'll go to the stage very soon. So genomics is another area. AI is playing a major role. Genomics will change the way we treat the patients, because it should be able to diagnose diseases more accurately, diagnose genetic disorders. It can play a major role in identifying the primary kind of cancer. So genomics industry is growing very fast. So much of things are happening in this field. Again, pharma sector, another area where AI plays a major role in terms of research, manufacturing, and finding out the possibilities of drug interactions. There's so many AI is playing a major role in pharma sector. NEAGM is one of the most popular journal in the medical field. They are going to come up with an edition called NEAGM AI from Jan 2024, which means that even the biggest people in the healthcare industry are trying to adapt AI as soon as possible. This is an educational thing focused on mainly doctors. Healthcare market, AI in healthcare market, it's also going to grow big. It's $11 billion US right now. It will grow at least 15, 16 times in next 10 years. So I think it's better for the healthcare people to know that what's happening on the other end, prepare ourselves to adopt the technology. So whatever you do new, there will be some side effects. We have to prepare ourselves. As I said earlier, artificial intelligence in the early stage, many things are being developed. You might feel a lot of mistakes there. It can give you a guidance of what needs to be done, rather than we can just completely copy and paste in the clinical practice. That's one of the side effects. And there are many major challenges we are going to discuss in the panel now. Again, WHO has released an ethics and governance guidelines for artificial intelligence for health a few years ago. It's more than 160 pages actually. I think whoever is using AI in healthcare, the tech people and then doctors, I think we should all read this thing to find out how ethically, legally we can use artificial intelligence. So I'm coming to a closer now. This image, so this is taken in one of the peripheral villages in Tamil Nadu. You can see how UPI is used, Google Pay is used by a coconut vendor in a peripheral village without any harm or making any harm to anybody, or using it with ease. That's how digital transformation in finance sector has penetrated people to the periphery, to the corner of the country. And people don't mind using it. Even this person might not know he's using an artificial intelligence technology, or he might not heard the word of digital transformation. If the same thing happens in healthcare sector, that this digital transformation or artificial intelligence, I'm sure the patient sitting here should benefit because of this digital transformation. That should be the data scientists and the healthcare providers should feel happy that we are doing something really good. The people shouldn't even know that there's something happening, or A or DM, they don't need to know anything, but they should directly benefit. If you don't make an impact for that particular patient, you will completely fail. I think all of us should work together, join hands to achieve the status. So be cautious. This image I have created within 20 seconds using DALL-E. That's an advancement happen. I just gave a simple command saying that give an image where, say, Earth is driven by humans. This is the image given within 20 seconds. That's an advancement happening in the generative AI, Bernie has said. And this also created by DALL-E. Here, there is a possibility AI might drive the Earth rather than the humans. That's a major concern among scientists. I'm sure that all the scientists will agree with that. If a day comes where AI programs can develop the programs on their own, we are finished. So I hope that stage won't come. Some regulations will prevent happening there. But I think this is going to be a major transformation. We are living in an era where we have to be cautious and aware of things of what's happening around. So the final slide. AI and machine learning will not put health professionals out of business. Rather, they will make it possible for health professionals to do their jobs better and leave time for human-human interactions that made medicine the rewarding professions all we have. Thank you very much. If any questions, you can ask the panelists. They're all experts. I'm not an expert there. We'll move on to any questions actually? I think we'll have questions in the panel discussion. We'll move on to the panel discussion. May I invite, Amber is there, still on call? She's not there. I think she left, I think. So can I invite Bharani to come on stage, please? Can I invite Mr. Satya Srinivasan? He works for EZ Solution USA. Can I invite Mr. Ikram? He works for Australian Embassy. He focuses on Australian Trade and Investment Commission. I have met him multiple times. He brought in technologists from Australia many times to find out business opportunities in our country. And he leads Austrade's healthcare and infrastructure sectors in South Asia region. And he has worked in multiple sectors, both public and private, in his own country. And we have Mr. Adel, COO of Flab Healthcare. He has completed MBA program from IIM Ahmedabad, and he does great work in terms of running the hospital. We have Amber Hill here. Thank you, Amber. Sorry for the delay. I know that you are going to get a flight very soon to South Africa. Thanks for waiting. You have time, another 10-15 minutes?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. So Amber is the CEO of Research Grid in UK, where her company streamlines clinical trials and community engagement from months to minutes. She has got an expertise in end-to-end medical research, global patient engagement, and the AI software system. And both of us are working in a project right now, which is going to be funded by the UK university. We'll see how it works. And we have Dr. Sumant Raman, who is a well-known health tech expert in this country, who has got a huge experience in associating with the bigger hospitals in the country. And for more than 20 years, he was with the TCS. Have I missed anyone else? And I also want to invite two doctors on stage. Dr. Srinivasan, who is working as a radiologist in Rela Institute. He's my colleague there. I also want to invite Dr. Mukul Vich, who is a pathologist working in our institute. Both of us are having keen interest in AI. They're also having some concerns about AI. I thought they are the right people to counter if any data scientist says something wrong, actually. So basically on stage here, we have people from 4 countries, UK, Australia, India, and USA. We have people from 4 countries, and we have diverse people here. We have practicing clinicians, 3 of us are standing here. We have data scientists, we have healthcare administrators, we have all people, and all of us are patients anyway. So it works really well. We'll see how the session goes. Amber, I might start with you because you have been waiting for long on a call, so I might start with you. So what's happening in UK in terms of artificial intelligence? Can you just give a brief? How far they have gone ahead in NHS system or private setup? in terms of implementing artificial intelligence? Is there any roadblock you are facing there? What's your feel about that?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
I think there might be a little bit of lag, but artificial intelligence here in the UK, I think, is still kind of in its infancy, but moving quickly. There's an understanding that we need to utilize artificial intelligence and implement it throughout healthcare and also in medical research. But we also need some regulations around AI, particularly generative AI. And so I think there's discussions around each kind of angle in the UK. Within the hospital setting, we have several companies and applications that utilize AI. I think AI is something that is oftentimes used in systems that streamline in ways that we have in our pockets ordinarily. So it's not something that is abstract or foreign to us. It's just a matter of how we talk about it and how we think about it, I would say.
Thank you, Amber. So you're saying that there's no strong governance existing to control AI in healthcare. Am I right? In UK right now, and the government is working on creating some rules and regulations for it.
Yes, I think this is consistent around the globe, where we are just setting up the initial infrastructure for policies and governance around artificial intelligence, and the speed at which it's moving is quite quick for the systems that are in place. So especially when we think about generative AI, I think generative AI is less popular in healthcare and medical research. So it's still something that is in its infancy in terms of development within those infrastructures, but quickly kind of taking on adaptations in different products and things, including our own. So yes.
Thank you. What do you and your company do in medical research utilizing artificial intelligence? How is it going to help the countries like India, where we are slightly behind compared to the Western world in terms of doing research? Do you think this development, AI development in research, is going to benefit more the countries like us rather than the Western world? What's your opinion about that?
So I think that international collaboration is fundamental for AI in this discussion. I think there's been a lot of talk about data, structuring data, and from my perspective, there are three kind of key areas. There's data transfer, learning from each other, systematic rollout of how innovation and transformative solutions can play a part in all countries, learning what works in larger cities versus rural areas and different locations and countries, strategically working together and implementing these infrastructures quickly and successfully, and more importantly, sustainably. And then there's the data sharing aspect as a second thing, where organizing and structuring data, training models to the extent where we can predict how and when patients might become ill or how things might affect them later stage. And then also improving outcomes for getting closer to kind of that personalized healthcare pinnacle that we all want to achieve. And I think the third thing is improving affordability and access to healthcare in different countries and cultural contexts. So I think that's the fundamental importance of international collaboration. Now, when we're talking about ResearchGrid, I can share a few slides here on ResearchGrid and what we do, just so that it adds a few visuals. Hopefully this works. Are you able to see my slides?
Yes, we can, Amber. Please go on.
Okay, yes. So ResearchGrid accelerates medical research from months to minutes. And what we are essentially doing is trying to reduce high costs and time waste with things that look like this. So this was actually my desk when I was managing clinical trials data. And I had to populate these folders with documents and data sheets, and clinicians would return them to my desk, and then I'd have to type an exact replica. And the point of showing this picture is that you all will recognize the manual component of this and how inaccessible a manual it is unnecessarily. And it happens like this globally, and the UK is no different. And it's really to track documents, data, and communication across the board. And so what we do is try to address two bottlenecks upstream and downstream, one being patient management and the other being trials management, both being quite inaccessible and manual. And so the way that we do that is by streamlining these processes using machine learning, artificial intelligence, as well as what we call process automation, which just automates processes. And we do that in two ways, or two things: to reduce lead time and cost, and also to increase patient access and retention, and ultimately that transparency for the patient over time. We do that by engineering tools for flexibility, effectiveness, and addressing bottlenecks at speed using 4 different AI methodologies. So we use what we call kind of text-based processing, image-based processing, quickly processing all of that together, and then generative models here. And we deploy that across 2 products. Now that does 3 things. It automates administration, so all the documents that you see on that desk earlier. The second thing it does is it automates data capture across both products, upstream and downstream medical research. And then the third thing it does is automates inclusive engagement with the patient themselves, and that's using omni-channel communication and making things more flexible and interoperable to work with using any type of data source. We know that it does work because we've been able to reduce costs by 45 to 60%. We've been able to increase efficiency and increase engagement by 145%. So that's just a quick sort of stop tour on what we do, just to answer those 2 questions that you asked me, Elon.
Thank you very much, Amber. It's a lovely presentation, and I really appreciate your great work doing in medical research, because research is one area we tend to ignore. I think this A in research will make a big impact, I feel. We'll move on to the other part of the world. I want to ask Mr. Abdul Ikram, what's happening in Australia in digital transformation or A in healthcare? How far it has progressed? What's your feel about that?
Thank you, and thank you, Amber, and thank you, CII, and distinguished guests and everyone. Thanks for joining this enlightening session. You asked about Australia. I think we're on the same page as others. It's very early stage in terms of creating a framework and guideline for use of healthcare, AI in healthcare. Absolutely, we have just published 2 days ago the national roadmap, where most of you touched upon the privacy issue, touched upon the guideline, ethical, and others. It's all there. You also mentioned the governance issue as well. I think from Australia's priority side, we are also, I think one other thing I haven't heard much about the workforce, making sure that the skilled workforce is available to adopt and implement AI. So Australia is going to emphasize a lot, not only the clinicians or practitioners, but also the consumers. So they are well educated to understand how it is going to change their lifestyle as well. But the other big investment, there are 3 fundamental reasons why AI in healthcare is progressing so fast. I think the significant investment in EHR, which is creating massive clinical data, I think that is helpful for you developers, right? And Dr. Ganesh mentioned about Ayushman Bharat Digital Health Mission and Unique Health ID. And in a couple of forums, we mentioned that Australia's My Health Record, under which we implemented 3 years ago, that 96% of our citizens have got their unique health ID and they carry their health record across jurisdiction. But some of the data are de-identified, are accessible by the developers and researchers. So that is one thing. The other good thing, and I think this is where India will play a major role, the speed and the supercomputing, the way we process and storage data at scale, available at very low cost. I think someone was from AWS mentioned today as well. And thirdly, how you accept and adapt through this guideline, and how quickly you can analyze those data. So these three fundamental things we are pushing very hard. And quickly touching upon Amber's point around clinical trials, that is one thing I feel that I'm not saying that Australia is the global leader in clinical trials, but Amber, as you probably know, that Australia conducts 5% of global clinical trials, whereas it's a country of 25 million population. Our contribution to global GDP is not more than 1%. So clinical trial is one thing that government is pushing so hard that all the local health district and in a public setup, the CEOs will have a KPI that you have certain amount of patients should be registered in one form of clinical trial, and it's normally 20%. That means 20% of patients registered in that hospital should be in some form of clinical trials, be it investigator-initiated or industry-sponsored trials. So that is helping us to going forward to help AI and other digital tools to come up quickly. Also in the global drug development, Australia's focus in novel medical research is very keen. We've also created 50 biobanks. It's a huge investment from the government where developers can access the data and information to fast track this. So these are the things I think will fundamentally change the landscape, and Australia will play its role. But I also feel that we should focus on boundaryless thinking, if we are really trying to fast track the implementation process. So I'll come back to it later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ikram. Actually, you have eventually a good point. We have globalized many things, finance or import or export. I think this digital transformation will globalize healthcare. Even people who is having problem in US, they can be diagnosed in India, where teleradiology or AI and radiology will help. I think healthcare can be globalized with this digital transformation. That's a very good point. We know that US is doing a great work in terms of AI research, whether it's MIT or Stanford or Mayo Clinic. A lot of research is going on in AI in medicine and healthcare. I want to ask Mr. Satya, what's your thought? We know that more than 95% of US hospitals have moved into electronic medical record, which means that they have so much of data available. Maybe in India, we have less than 1 or 2% of hospitals are using EMR, again, not very efficiently. So that's a comparison. Maybe US has got 100 times better or 1,000 times better in terms of collecting data, analyzing it. That's why they're able to do major research. Where does US stand from your viewpoint?
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me this afternoon. But the very great point that you brought up, Ilan, is that the adoption that what US has taken towards EHRs, EMRs has been phenomenal. And then the surge that EHRs and EMRs have been tripled post-COVID and during COVID as well. So the importance of the EHR has been understood very clearly. The implementations of EHR has taken a humongous financial impact to the hospitals to initiate the process, because they understood that this is somewhere going to lead multiple data sets that they eventually needed. There are multiple governing bodies like FDA's, CMS, a lot of institutions are standardizing this process. So it has become a policy and a procedure for a lot of healthcare hospitals operating within US to enforce EMRs and EHRs, and it's truly because of multiple reasons. One is interoperability, as I think everybody talked about that. And then the advancements about getting this clinical clean data, and it's also starting from collecting data, and this collection is happening in multiple entry points, right? So EHRs, EMRs is definitely at a very, very high utilization point of it. What's currently moving trend, and then I think Amber and then Amar Akbar spoke to about that too, the evolution to that point is how they maximize the utilization through bite sizes, right? They don't consume that in whole packets. They consume them in areas where they think is predominantly essential, right? So in kinds of diagnosis spaces, in terms of medical imaging spaces, they kind of break the data from silos. They also re-image them back, but they bring multiple contexts towards those data so that they can learn from the data and then use the data in multiple segmentations, right? One example I would say, FDA is now currently getting involved in terms of how do you do an approval for crown technology. Like if you want to go to a dental and you want to approve for a crown, FDA has said that, hey, I'm not just going to approve my payment terms because you're saying I need a crown, but I need to go through an AI and digitalization to do that, making sure that the AI tells you that is part of that story, right? So that's where the evolution is happening. And then Amber and then both of you guys brought about the drug discoveries and scientific researchers, right? Just not because today it has started about that point. Drug discoveries has been using AI, but it's actually fast-tracked with a lot of additional generative AI modelings. It has compressed the drug discovery into almost like reduced by 6 to 8 months now. In the clinical trial phase, in the drug discoveries, and using a lot of advanced technology, these things have been fast-tracked so that they could create new products, new medications, new specialty products, new biosimilars, new mRNAs at multiple facets of speeds. But it's eventually going to take that additional approval process that is still being the longest term, but creation, clinical determinations, all starts from the collection of data, and the collection starts with the EMRs and EHRs.
Great point, Satya. Sure. We have an expert from India who is a doctor and also an IT expert for the last 20 years. He also runs a company which does a lot of work with AI in medicine. What's your thought process? We have heard from what's happening in the West. Where do we stand now? How far we are behind compared to them actually?
Good afternoon to you all. I think that there is a phenomenal opportunity for the growth of AI in a country like India. We have the talent, we have the ability. As far as healthcare is concerned, we have only two problems in using or enhancing the use of AI. One is the problem that we do not have adequate volumes of data in the Indian context because we don't have enough EMR systems collecting such data. As Dr. Ilan said, hardly, most certainly less than 5% of hospitals in India use electronic medical records, and that will happen only if the government makes it compulsory. Government has not made it compulsory. So that's point number one. The second very important point is that, and I think that we are underestimating this. The clinicians, many of my own colleagues and classmates, for instance, are not overly enthusiastic about the use of AI in healthcare. I mean, whether they perceive it as a threat at some point is something that we sort of underestimate. We think, yes, it is to some extent a global thing, which we saw with electronic medical record implementations around the world. But I think as far as AI is concerned, there is a genuine fear that much of the decision making, which is essentially the key operating control in the hands of the doctor, will then be transferred to a system. The important thing about AI as we stand today is there are any number of machine learning models that can outperform the doctors today. It's already out there. Now the point is the unwillingness of the healthcare community to accept these models is one, and asking for a zero margin of error. Look, we have to understand that getting to a zero error state will take years. What we should actually be doing is comparing with the levels of accuracy of the current average or above average doctors in the field. And we are not measuring that. In India, we don't measure outcomes, we don't measure quality of care indices. They are only a handful and they are also indirect. So what actually we are doing is, we are not measuring how the accuracy of the decision making of the doctor, but we want the AI system to be 100% accurate. If it is 95%, the immediate response is, oh my God, it will make a mistake in 5%. So I think that we need to be realistic on that one. Very importantly, the biggest transition that we are going to face, and I put on my clinician's hat here, is that whether we like it or not, these applications will reach the consumer in less than 5 years' time. And I think, mark my words, once it reaches the consumer, you will not, as doctors, will not have a choice of deciding whether to adopt it. How many of our patients already bring a Google printout? It's already happening. It's been happening for the last 10 years. This will be to the next level. And you will see that little slide in many, cartoon. That is where the doctor says, puts a board outside. He says, my diagnosis, my treatment, $500. Your diagnosis, my treatment, $1,000. Your diagnosis, your treatment, $5,000. So effectively, that's how it's potentially going to transition. 2 points quickly regarding the issues that are currently being faced with these models. Everyone thinks this is some kind of magic bullet. You just sort of, use quote unquote artificial intelligence and it will happen. No, it takes months, years to train these models. You need quality data. If you put garbage data in, you will get garbage data out or garbage inferences out. Many of us don't realize that. Everyone thinks, oh my God, this is some magical thing. Take generative AI, take OpenAI for instance, take Google Bard, you take any of the existing models and test them out on healthcare patients. Take ChatGPT for instance. We work extensively with OpenAI and we build predictive models for conditions like sepsis, acute kidney injury and so on. But I just give you a little example. You try this when you go home or whenever you're free. Open ChatGPT, put in a set of symptoms, history, lab findings. It will give you an output. Copy that output in a Word document, regenerate the same response. You will get a similar response, but it won't be the same. Regenerate the response the third time, regenerate the response the fourth time, and you will find that something very significant, if it had given you a priority list of diagnosis, that order of the priority would have changed. The other major issue with AI is what we call as hallucinations with machine learning models. Hallucinations are essentially where the system doesn't know. It's like a very clever kid who's faced with a question in the exam which he doesn't know. So what does the kid do? He cooks up something. So machine learning models tend to hallucinate. Eliminating the hallucinations is the biggest challenge. So what is the biggest challenge currently that most of us face in developing these models and delivering it? It is in ensuring consistency. It is in making sure that 1 + 1 is equal to 2. Now, if I put 1 + 1, it's not good enough to say 90% it will say it is 2, but 20% it may say it is 8, because such a wrong decision making can be disastrous. So getting that consistency, and it's getting there. We are my gut feel, and I could be wrong, because when we started a year ago, even OpenAI GPT models were not so well evolved. Today, GPT-4, the turbo models which have come, have gone streets ahead, and likewise all the other ML models which are in the market. So change is happening like every minute almost. I mean, it's not even like it's taking years. So the message that I would like to pass on to everyone is, as doctors, as healthcare industry people, we have two choices. One, ignore what's happening and be completely bypassed and made redundant in 10 years, or embrace this change, embrace this technology, grow with it, helping us become better clinicians, helping us deliver better quality care as hospitals. So the choice is really before us. Eventually, in 10 years, probably in 5 years, this power is going to be with the consumer. Make no mistake about it. So we need to embrace this change at the earliest.
Great points there, Dr. Sumath, actually. Really appreciate that. Because you have mentioned about doctors might restrict usage of AI, I'll move on to the doctors. So we know that AI input are many. One is data, second one is video, third is image, fourth can be voice. But to create an AI model, when you use image, I think the output will be better. That's the reason the research has commercialized many of this image-based AI in healthcare. Mainly the pathology, where pathologists use images, radiology, where it's used. So it's all available in our hospital. this is fully commercialized. So I want to start with Dr. Srinivasan, who is a radiologist working at Rail Institute, to make a comment about, do you think over the period of time, radiologists will lose their job? What's your, do you worry about that?
Good afternoon, everyone. As a clinical radiologist, I would like to embrace whatever the new technologies that is coming on my way. So radiology is all about technologies. So we have adapted so many new technologies over the last few decades. So definitely, I don't think it will replace the radiologists, but the radiologists who are using AI will have an edge over the other radiologists, or at least they replace the radiologists who are not using AI. That is going to be there. So the radiology is all about visual interpretation of images. So to give an example, if I am reporting a CT scan of a patient, I have to review some 1,000 to 2,000 images before giving a diagnosis. So which is very labor intensive and it is very time consuming. But the expectations from the patients or from the clinicians is they want a report immediately, at least a provisional report or at least a report immediately. So in that constrained environment, radiology reporting is more of a subjective thing and more prone for errors. So integrating an AI in an imaging workflow, that is radiology workflow, definitely will increase the efficiency as well as reduce the turnaround times. And if not completely eliminating the errors, at least it will reduce the radiology errors with the available paradigms. So I don't think it will replace, but definitely it will have a major role in the radiology workload.
Thank you. Good points, Dr. Srini. Actually, if you look at India, we have only less than 25% of radiologists actually required for the country. I don't know, the current number is around 15,000. Actually, the need is more than 50,000 radiologists. Maybe this kind of AI tools can help radiologists to reduce their workload. They can also cater to the periphery population. The image I showed, it's a PHC. I don't think anybody can read the fracture there. I think AI can definitely help. Mukul, what's your viewpoint actually? How should doctors take up AI in healthcare? What's your long-term view? Thank you.
So, thank you, Dr. Lin. Thank you for having me here. And I am a pathologist. I don't know all of you are aware what we do. I am a liver pathologist, so I get biopsies, small biopsies, specimens. I gross them, I make very small parts of it, and I make a glass slide and view it. And then I make a diagnosis. So pathology is very different from what you see in radiology. Radiology, you have imaging available from long time. You have these packs available where you have these images available, good quality images available in which you can work on. Pathology images are just available now with the help of digital pathology, in which you have scanners available, in which you can have whole slide can be scanned and can be viewed from the hospital or from anywhere you are sitting. But for AI, we need digital pathology revolution. So we need digital pathology. The scanners should be available everywhere, which is actually, I don't know, EMR you said 1%. I think digital scanners, they are very costly. I think less than 50 hospitals in India would have digital scanners. We have it at our center, in which you can scan the whole slide and very high resolution data is produced. Each image, when we actually scan it at 40 magnifications, gives you a resolution, gives you a file, a digital file, which is 4 GB, 3 GB. So much of data is produced in a single image from a liver. I think so. First of all, we need that digital thing, and in terms of replacing pathologists, I think that is all in infancy. We have weak AI currently in pathology, not very strong AI. These all work in very controlled environment. When you have unicenter or multicentric, you have the slides available. They are stained at one time. Very controlled, quality assured slides are there. Not everyday slides what we use here. We generate hundreds of slides every day. So I think to work something in clinical setting, I think we need lot of improvement. We need lot of data, lot of high quality slides available, not from centers which are research in US or UK, but from India. We have so many labs, so many things, so many cases are diagnosed every day. So to have a good AI model in pathology, I think we have to adopt digital pathology and studies or trials which are multicentric.
Thank you, Mukul and Srini. I really appreciate that. I want to ask Amber one more question before she leaves. How could developed countries like US, UK can collaborate with the Indian healthcare system so that India can progress faster to reach where you are right now? Do you think any models can be adapted? What's your thought process?
Yes, so I think that models that exist, as I said, there are multiple ways that we can learn from each other, and there are three kind of core things, that being knowledge transfer, what works in certain cultural contexts, and how we can translate that to a different cultural context, data sharing in terms of making algorithms stronger, and improving the affordability of healthcare systems and infrastructures using data and digital means. I think the way that we are working together in terms of collaborating with Bayer University and also Dr. Bella Institute are fundamental ways that are the epitome of how we can collaborate cross-culturally in order to achieve something that has never been done before, and that is utilizing data, using algorithms that already exist, and work within another cultural context, and applying those with Indian data to roll it out much faster and in a strategic, successful, and scalable way within the Indian infrastructure. So our collaboration is quite an advantage, I think, in a way that we can start in a structured and systematic way to utilize the data, to structure it, and then to roll it out farther within Indian context and also globally. And I think the main thing that some say the governance around it is the ownership of the data and things like that. And so when we have collaborations that work really nicely together, like ours, where we don't actually claim any ownership of the data, your data is your data, but we are helping you to process that in a way that we know structurally works in another context. That's what's important.
Thank you, Amber. Nicely said. I want to ask Bharani a question. And there are a lot of startups coming up, health tech startups. How could health tech startups create an ecosystem where AI in healthcare can progress faster than where we are right now? What's your suggestions, or is there anything we should do for the startups to play a major role in AI in healthcare?
Absolutely.
I think startup. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Amber. This is for Bharani. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Ilan, for asking that question. So, you know, in majority of your slides also, you were talking about the shortage of doctors, physicians in healthcare, right? According to WHO, we need one doctor for 1,000 patients or 1,000 people, right? As of now, we are not there. So then that in itself is a proof that we need a lot of people, right? And how do you generate those many people? Using AI, right? We have our doctor speaking about radiology and processing as many images as possible. We have Dr. Mukul talking about pathology images, processing as many as possible given the limited time that we have, right? So for all of these things to happen, we need AI, certainly. And India is the third largest startup ecosystem. There are a lot of startups in the space of AI. And you know, whenever we build AI applications, etc., as a startup, we need to think about multiple aspects. One is the service industry. We need not always build a solution or a product which caters to the needs. We can also provide a service, right? Like Practo, which has become a unicorn now. Then we also have product-based companies, a lot of product-based companies. One example that I can give is a company called as Brontobyte, which is a startup. I do consulting there. They built a system which will analyze the radiology images, pathology images, and then classify whether the patient has malignancy or is it benign. And then now they have incorporated this Gen AI also into that, which will actually give a report as well on whether there should be chemotherapy or surgical removal of the tumor, so on and so forth. So for the AI startup ecosystem to survive, there has to be continuous enhancement in the AI applications, right? So whenever there is a new technology, new thing which comes up in the space of AI, they should always keep incorporating that into their existing products. Only then will this AI startup ecosystem evolve to the next level. And also when they build, they should pay attention and pay heed to the legal aspects. You need to understand the law of the land, right? I'll give you one example of a project that we have done for Malaysian startup. Right there, while we were working on this embryo classification thing, the ethical committee was asking a lot of questions on, do you do projects in Korea? Do you have clients in Korea? Do you have clients in Japan? Right? The solution that you're building, will the Korean people or the Japanese folks use it? Then I was a little perplexed. Why is this question coming up? And this is for an AI startup, right? Then they were saying that the population in Korea and Japan would come down by 2070, the rate at which people are opting to be single. And if you're going to use this embryo classification, then you're increasing the success rate of many people becoming pregnant. And there is a secret survey which these folks have done, and they were saying that Japanese and Korean folks are actually trying to generate more and more babies artificially. And if you're going to increase the success rate, then you're in a counter manner impacting the entire ecosystem, right? Wherein people will generate babies, and those babies will be nurtured and tuned to probably go and fight in the defense. And if they die, there's no one to cry, right? So all these aspects also should be understood when a startup comes to light, right? When a startup wants to come up with a product or a service, these aspects also should be considered. And the most important thing is to know the law of the land. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Bharani. In simple terms, to advise to the startups, basically try to solve customers' problem. Customers are our patients, so try to solve patients' problem, don't do anything else. I think we are running out of time. It's 1:45 now. I request Mr. Adel to conclude the session so that we can move on to lunch. Maybe post-lunch we can reassemble here by 2:30.
Yeah, thank you, Doctor. So we've been hearing a lot about AI and the prospects that AI can bring to the healthcare, the impact that it can create. But there are certain fundamental problems. I think Dr. Ilan, Dr. Sumant has been, they've notified, like there are instances wherein Cleveland Clinic is able to do a robotic surgery. The doctor could do a surgery from the US, and the patient is in the Gulf, in the UAE. But here in India, we have hospitals, not just any hospital. Say, as per the IMA, there are around 4,000 small and medium hospitals in Tamil Nadu alone. So as per that data, there are hospitals which do not have a computer system at all. So how do you bridge this huge gap? And second, though healthcare professionals, doctors, or the paramedicals, or anyone for that matter, we understand iPhone easily, but we do not take an effort to understand technology. We understand medical technology, but we do not take an effort to understand AI or ML. So how do we bridge this gap? That is the key issue that we have to address. And hospital owners, doctors who own hospitals, the key issue today is increasing cost. How do we, are we going to be, referring to what the doctor said, or the pathologist said. So if you're going to have digital pathology or digital radiology, high-end technologies, it is going to increase, it is going to add up cost to the operations. How do you keep up with that? Will there be a return on investment? So these are some of the issues that doctors are facing, hospital owners are facing today, and that is something we have to address. But I do personally feel that we have to go with the trend, with the upcoming technologies. That is something we have to do. But at the same time, say an example like what Mr. Barney showed up. Like what if the the ward secretaries that we have in our hospitals, they do not know, they get trained over time to write discharge summaries. What if this AI could write a summary of the entire patient stay in a hospital, and that is verified by a doctor? Your discharge summary will go down from 6 to 8 hours to 1 to 2 hours. That is going to benefit the patient. And there's several instances. Even the images that Dr. Ilan showed, the DALI or the Midjourney generative AIs, we could use it for your digital marketing. So these are simple instances, simple ways where you can use these technologies cost effectively, at least for now. But there's a long way to go. We have to cope up for it. We have to be ready for it. That is what I would like to say.
Thank you. Amber, can you stay back for a minute? We want to take a group picture. You are on the stage actually on a big screen. Can you stay back, please? Thank you.